If you've been holding it together on the outside, but feeling worn and thin on the inside, your heart is tired and your nervous system just feels like it hasn't exhaled in a while, today's conversation is for you. We're talking about rejection, the kind that doesn't hurt for a moment, but quietly reshapes how you see yourself, how you show up, and sometimes even how you experience God. And we're talking about healing, not the rush kind, not the just have more faith kind, but the kind of grace that meets you right where you are and gently reminds you you are never the one who was too much or not enough. You are always deeply loved. Hey, friends, welcome back to the Wildly Hopeful podcast. Today's conversation feels especially honest, real, and tender because we're stepping into places many of us don't always have language for. Rejection, emotional wounds, and what it really looks like to be held by Jesus when life feels like it's letting us go. And before we begin, I just want to take a slow breath with you because I know many of you are coming into this space carrying more than you're saying out loud. Some of you are tired in ways that don't even show on the outside. Some of you love Jesus deeply, but feel stretched thin trying to hold both your faith and emotional exhaustion at the same time. And if that's you, this is a space where you don't have to rush your healing or perform your strength. Around this table, honesty is welcome. Grace is steady, and we believe that He meets us not just in our victories, but right here in the middle of our real stories. And if it's one thing that I've learned through both faith and emotional healing, it's this: our bodies often tell the truth before our words do. They carry the weight of the rejection, of the disappointment, of the seasons where we've been wounded and we've wondered if we're unseen or maybe even unchosen. Our bodies, they do keep the score. And yet it's often in those very places that God begins to reshape how we understand His love. That's why this chat feels so meaningful. My guest today is Tabitha Panariso, and she is an informed trauma therapist, writer, and speaker whose work lives at the intersection of emotional healing and deep, steady faith. She's a licensed professional counselor candidate, and she has a gift for helping people navigate rejection, abandonment, and identity wounds, not just spiritually, but emotionally and relationally too. And what I love about her voice is that she doesn't rush people past their pain either. She holds space for it. Her work is rooted in compassion, emotional honesty, and a deep belief that healing happens when we allow both our faith and our story to be seen. She integrates therapy and theology in a way that feels grounded and safe, reminding us that healing isn't just about what we believe, it's also about what we've lived through and how those experiences have shaped the way we see ourselves and how we see ourselves in Him too. She's the author of Loyal in His Love, an invitation to be held by Jesus when others let you go, a book that gently reminds us that even when people let us go, Jesus doesn't. Tabitha grew up as a military chaplain's daughter, and her story includes a pivotal encounter with God in her late teens that shifted her faith from something she knew about to something deeply personal that reshaped her identity and her direction. She's also a wife and mom of 3 living in Colorado Springs, and she brings that lived, everyday humanity into everything she shares. Her message is simple, but it's so powerful, helping people move from performance-based faith into a grace-centered relationship, from believing I am rejected to slowly and gently learning to live from the truth that I am loved. And I truly believe that this conversation is going to feel like a deep exhale for so many of you listening today. Tabitha, I am so honored you're here. Welcome to the show. Let's get into it.
That's
Yeah.
hearing your
Yeah.
story. And it's so interesting too, just to see how so many of us experience that kind of feeling much
Yeah.
later on in life, right? Like it
Yeah.
happens more often than you think, especially to women in their 40s and 50s.
Yes.
Just this loss of friendship and identity and belonging, and then needing to start over again.
Yeah. And it's a place we've never been before. And
Yeah.
just like John, right? Like, we're pioneering a way and charting a way that we've never been before. And it's not always easy,
Yeah.
but we know we're held. And I
Yeah.
think that is the part where I have found joy even on the days where I'm like, okay, God, like
Mm.
I know you said that you see me, like, I've known you, I've seen you as Elroy, but, like, can I really see you right now? Like, are we in the same in the same place? But anyway, I said this already, but, I'm so thankful that you're here with us. I'm so thankful that our friends get to sit and hopefully glean, some of the words on your heart and just knowledge that
Mhm.
you have to share. But before we talk about your work, I always love to start with, like, the human, my friend behind the message, because I
Oh,
feel like so many of us, especially if people follow you on social media, they know a little about who Tabitha is. If they've read your book, then they've seen a little bit into your heart, but not
yeah.
everyone knows the Tabitha behind the journey, and
Mm,
that's my favorite part to start because the story behind the calling tells us more than a title could ever
mm.
hold or tell. So, I want to know, who is Tabitha? Who is Tabitha behind the therapist and Tabitha behind the author and the writer?
Oh, this feels like a challenge my husband constantly gives me. He's like, "Who are you without the things that you do?" And I'm like, "Stop asking me that question."
I don't wanna answer that next question, please.
Why can't I attribute my whole entire personality to the things that I've accomplished? It's
Right. Can we go back to fashion for 25, Alex?
change the subject. Stop.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man. That's such a interesting question to ask. Obviously, there are the title parts of, like, I am a
Mhm.
mom. I have 3
Yeah.
kids, love them so much. I have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old. Well, I'm kind of exaggerating, but they're in that, like, weird space where they're all turning different ages, and so it's just easy
Mhm.
to say
It's
that.
just easier to say that, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a pretty, like, I would say an ambivert, I have recently become obsessed with weightlifting, and that's been a little bit of my entire personality the last year. I solely drink decaf coffee. I surprisingly watch a lot of television.
Oh, yeah.
I love TV, which is so funny to say because as an author, I guess I probably should tell you that I'm a reader. I am a reader, but
Mhm.
after I got my degree in counseling, there was just something about the master's program that, like, killed a lot of the desire and instinct to want to spend my time reading, and
Mhm.
even now, 10 something years later, I'm still figuring that out. I'm
Yeah.
still
No,
trying
that
to
makes complete
find my
sense,
way
though.
back to it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I do a lot of reading for work, and so I think, ultimately, I'm like, "Let's watch some Love Is Blind and have a little bit of
Okay, like, I do not even mean to cut you off in the middle of the question I ask you, but now this is gonna give you a moment to breathe, and hey,
Yep.
listen, I go down a rabbit hole a lot, so I may forget to even come back, but okay. My daughter I'm not a TV watcher, right? And it's not because I don't wanna be, it's just because I am constantly moving and doing something, and then by the time
True.
I sit down and the TV's on, I fall asleep. So
Mhm.
it's not like I'm like this holy person that's like, "Oh, I don't watch TV." It's just I fall asleep.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Mhm.
So just yesterday, was it yesterday? No, yesterday was church. Okay, so just Saturday,
Mm,
my oldest daughter came over here and I was having a rough day, just
mm,
a rough day all the way around. And I had been sitting in my thoughts too long, probably, and trying to do some hard work that my therapist and I had talked about.
mm,
And
mm.
my daughter, at the right moment, looked at me and said, "Hey, do you want to watch some Love is Blind?" And I was like, "What is that? I have never heard of it. Never watched it." Okay, listen, let me tell you something. She put that show on, and then she was like, "Hey, I've gotta go do some laundry." I said, "No, ma'am. Sit right back down right here. I need to know what happens to Victor and this girl right here. I need to know if they're gonna stay married. I need to know what happens in Cabo. Like, how did you just tell me what was fixing to happen?" And you have got me like, I'm talking hook, line, and sinker. I'm in my TV like this, like just straight watching. And I start crying. Okay, so, I mean, obviously, since you're a Love is Blind, and for
Uh-huh.
our friends that are not, it's these 2 people and tell me because you watch it, and I may
Yeah.
just butcher this, but it's like 2 people who go on this show, and they don't know each other, they don't get to see each other, they're behind a screen, they have to ask each other these questions, and based on how they answer them, determine if they wanna meet, and then ultimately get
Not just
married
me. They get married in a month.
yeah, in a month before this show is over, and so here I am and I've already done fallen in love with every
Mhm.
story that's on there. Like, I am Allie and Noah-ing in every one, and I'm, like, already seeing what's fixing to happen.
Yeah.
And when when what his name was something Saint Victor. What was his or what oh
I think
gosh, I
Vic
can't
is it's just
it's
Vic.
it's just Vic, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's her name?
Christine.
Christine, okay. And so the screen that they can't even see each other, their silhouettes or nothing but when it
Yes.
starts to open and they seen
Yes.
each other, and she couldn't take her hands off his face, and she just kept kissing him, and I was like, "Oh my god, look at that." And I started crying.
Did
So
you
here
really?
I am in 2 people that just met, I never watched TV, and I'm like, "Where has this been all my life?" Like, this is what I have been missing.
That's
Like,
probably the only genuine love story, though, on the show.
that's on there probably, and I got but look, there is a God in heaven who loves me, and the one time that I have watched it, he let that be the love show that I got to see.
Oh, I love that. It's such
Yeah.
this is I just love people watching. I'm so shows like that allow me to do a little bit of that and be
Yeah.
like, some of these people really need therapists and they're not quite ready to really, you know, commit
I
the
was
way they
gonna
want
ask you.
to.
The whole time you're watching, I used to wear this shirt. It had Dr. Seuss on it, and it said, "Keep talking, I'm diagnosing you." My
Mhm.
kids got me that when I was in nurse practitioner school
Oh,
100
yeah.
years ago, and I loved it. But I was gonna ask you, when you're watching shows like that,
Yeah.
especially, are you diagnosing them the whole time?
Yeah, and it's not even
Not even trying to,
diagnostic.
but
It's
just like
more yeah, I'm more like the last time so my husband watches it with me, which I really appreciate because it's just fun getting the male perspective, and we'll
Mhm.
kinda, like, go back and forth, but the last night we watched, I went on a whole diatribe about communication skills and lack thereof and just was so frustrated.
Well, see, I don't wanna call anybody out by name, but I wouldn't remember her name anyway, but she was
Yeah.
beautiful. But
Uh-huh.
she's the one that had undergone the surgeries on
Oh,
her arm.
yeah. Mhm.
Now listen, I love homegirl, but I just don't believe she was emotionally available to
I agree.
be on a show like that, because it was very apparent that every question that no matter which there was 3 different gentlemen, that she got to talk to, she
Yeah.
wasn't comfortable
Yeah.
answering any of their questions, and then blamed it, obviously, because that's what we do, right? When we're hurt
Mhm.
still and trying to look healed, walking through, and I'm not saying this about her, I'll just speak to myself right now.
Yeah.
But in times where I've tried to look healed, right?
Mhm.
It was very ovid, like, obvious the way I would project what
Yes.
I was emotionally dealing with
Yeah.
and I'll just use my husband. Okay, maybe he and I should have went on this show 27 years ago, but I I will just throw it out there so that I'm not throwing shade on anybody else's love life. But I have been there. I've been her.
Yeah.
And so the whole time we were watching, it was hard. It was hard for me to watch her, and I don't mean that like in a ugly
Mhm.
way,
Mhm.
hard to watch her. It hurt me for
Yeah.
her, and
Yeah.
I literally wanted to be like, "Girl, find me on Instagram, DM me. Let's get you in with somebody to talk. Like,
Mm.
you really need a hug and
Yeah.
to talk to your therapist."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's funny because there is this new, trend I've noticed in younger people who are dating where there is this perspective of, like, I have to be 100 or I have to be healthy all the way through, or the other
Mhm.
person has to be healthy all the way through in order for us to connect or have a relationship.
Mhm.
And that's just not true, like,
Yeah.
nor is it possible. You can't shiny yourself up so much that you're not going to have problems or struggles in a relationship.
Mhm. Yes.
So, certainly, that's not what we're saying here, because I think regardless of the work you do prior to a relationship, you're gonna end up having to do more work in your relationship. That's just the
We
nature
are never I say that to my daughters a lot. They're both young, they're
Yeah.
both younger, they're in their 20s and they're married, and that is truly a conversation we have all the time
Yeah.
about healing and being whole. There's one thing about healing and being whole in your
Mhm.
identity and who you are in Christ. There's
Mhm.
another thing about walking on the face of this earth in healing
Yeah.
because we will never be whole until we're on that side of glory with
Right.
him in heaven,
Mhm.
and, that goes back to exactly what you said, though, is communication. That's why communication
Yes.
and you will be able to attest to that, obviously, better than me, but that's why communication is so important. And do you know, my husband and I were well, obviously, you don't know this, but when I moved here 4 years ago, he had lived here a year before me, and we were not in the greatest of places in our
Yeah.
marriage, and we were at a place where we were gonna call it quits. I mean, we were. And when I got here and we had some time to talk, because we had an 8-hour drive from Tennessee. It turned into
Nothing like a car
a
drive.
12-hour drive, and it was just me and him for the first time in a very long time. We
Mhm.
weren't in the car as mom and dad, we weren't and we have 5 grandbabies. We weren't in the car as, mommy and poppy. We were husband and wife, and we were on a car ride, and it was the perfect time for
Mm.
us to learn how to communicate
Yeah.
after 24-ish years of marriage, to finally learn how to communicate, and I was so thankful for that time because it was truly like I don't wanna say, like, the sun rays were, like, beaming through the clouds and God was literally just shining on our car ride, but it really felt like that in that moment, like, "Oh," like, I heard the angels singing because I started realizing, like, all of the things that I had expected him to know,
Yeah.
like, it was just like God dropped in my spirit on that car ride. He's not a mind reader, right?
Right.
Like, if
Mhm.
there's something that you need, you have to be able to tell him what you need. He
Yeah.
doesn't automatically know it, even though you've been married all
Mhm.
this time. And it was just like little nuggets like that. And I thought, well, this was a neat little situation that communication, she's a really cool thing. Like, if we would have learned how to do this a long time ago, I might not have thrown vases. I mean, not that I ever did that. I'm just kidding. But we that was pre sanctification, maybe. I don't know, or, or midway through. But anyway, I love that you said that because
Yeah.
I'm glad that you clarified that because I don't want anyone to ever hear me
Yes.
say that we have to be healed to be in a
No. And
relationship
I don't think
because
that's what you
we
were
are
trying
healing.
to say.
Yeah. No,
I
but you made that
also
so much
agree that she
better.
does need a therapist, and I
Yeah.
certainly hope that watching the show back, there's some opportunities for self-reflection as far as,
Yeah.
"Oh, I desire this one thing, but actually I'm doing all of this self-sabotage and getting in the way of the thing that I want." And
Yeah.
sometimes we don't recognize that pattern until someone points it out to us or we finally see it in a very unavoidable way.
Yeah, in a way that, like, crashes on me. Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then as you were saying that, I thought, how cool would it be
Mhm.
if was it The Truman Show, I think? Like, where the life was like a TV show? I can't even remember who the actor is. Anyway,
Yeah.
he was living his life, and it was his life, he thought it was real, but it was like a TV show.
Yes. Mhm.
Anyway, how
That's the
cool
TV
would
show.
that Yeah, how cool would that be if before we made, like, these really big mistakes, we could watch a playback
Oh
of what
god.
happened, and we're
Would
like,
you
"Oh."
watch it though, Brandy? Because here's the thing is, I go on podcasts like this and I can't even tolerate listening to myself on
Yeah.
a
Do you know
podcast.
people that is so funny you said that because people ask me all the time, "Do you listen to your own show?"
Yeah.
Now, I love my show. I love every friend that has
Yeah.
ever been on here. I can't say there's, anyone that I've ever had on that I'm like, "Ooh, I wouldn't do that again."
Mhm.
But I I live it. Most every conversation that we have is not just a cute, like, fluffy chat. It's lived experiences that we've both lived, and I've lived it, and now I'm talking about it,
Mhm.
and I never go back and listen to unless my sweet husband is driving down the road and he's trying to get my numbers up,
Oh.
so that the algorithm will push my podcast out there, and I hear myself on it, and I'm like, did I sound like that? Like, listen to me. So anyway, and I'm like, then I'll start laughing at my own jokes that I made. And it's very obvious. Like, of course, I'm not watching the video, but I can hear, my other person in the like speaker
Yeah.
tune. I'm like, I don't think they laughed at that as hard as I did. Like, I thought I was really funny and I was making like a really good joke, and that may not have went over that well, but
Oh,
but
I have
but
that same kind of self-confidence that you
yeah. I told you we were
don't
sisters.
receive
Yeah. Yes, I told you we were sisters from the jump, and I love that I am talking to a real person with a real story today.
it.
And I wanna stay there for just a moment with your story, because as you were sharing before I so rudely interrupt with my going down a rabbit hole
Loved it.
of
Thank you.
watching Love is Blind, I kept thinking about how your work and
Mm,
what you do, holds both emotional healing and faith together, and I love that, and I would love to step into that side of your journey for a moment for our friends, because I think, and I'm gonna try to say this as delicately as my, bull in a china shop self can.
mm,
Um, there has been, I think, in, the church,
mhm,
times where women especially have, been made feel shame
mhm.
when they needed, mental health,
Yeah,
and when they were supposed to love God and have faith but still experienced anxiety,
yeah.
and when they loved God and trusted His truth but still needed therapy,
Mhm,
still needed medication, and I think about that, and when people hear the word therapist or author, like I said when we started, I think they see this role of a person,
mhm,
but Tabitha, underneath your season of life right now, lives your experience of
mhm.
your education and what you've learned. Um, but then you also speak, I think, and you can't help but to, because you are a therapist and you speak about rejection and shaping identity.
Mhm,
And for our friends that are listening that have suffered alone quietly or, um, silently, and not even, comfortable in telling their friends that they're experiencing, um, maybe even darkness, maybe not darkness, but maybe just walking through something they don't understand and just need help. How would you talk to that friend right now? Like, what would you tell her, um, about shaping her identity and knowing who she is and
yeah,
that it's okay to be human?
yeah. Yeah, I think the first part of it is just normalizing the experience for all of
Mhm.
us, right? As
Yeah.
as well attuned as our world has become at talking about mental health or talking about relational ruptures or conflict or problems, there just still seems to be things that we can't really wrap our minds around or we can't permit ourselves to feel, whether that
Yeah.
is rejection or loneliness, or even like this sense of like, who am I in this
Yeah.
world? I think it's important for women to know that they're not alone in that, that
Yeah.
actually the bulk of us have or will experience something like that at one point in their life, whether that's early
Mhm.
on in their 20s or later on in their 40s or 50s. It's kind of amazing, actually, how many older clients I spend time with who are asking those same questions. Uh,
Mhm.
and so you're not alone. And honestly, I think really just acknowledging this part of us that experiences life as if it's a race with a finish line, where the finish line is attributed to like an accomplishment or some sort of milestone in our life or something tangible that we can hold on to. Instead of remembering that the finish line is Christ, the finish line is a life well lived, a finish line, the journey is really just like this idea of becoming and allowing ourselves to become, which means showing up human every day, which means who I am today could be and is very well very different than who I was last year at the same time or 10 years ago, right? That all
Mhm.
of these parts of ourselves we're always carrying with us and God is sanctifying them. And so knowing too that that's part of the process. Like, we're always going to be in the process. I tell clients all the time, sometimes they need to hear this, like, they'll be doing really well and they'll be experiencing all this growth, and then they'll have a week where they just feel like they kind of returned back to old patterns of thinking or making choices that they've really tried very hard to stay away from. And I just keep reminding them, and I remind myself too, like, life really is a practice. Like, even me, as your therapist, still has to wake up every morning and choose to practice the things that I
Mhm.
know will lead me to healing and lead me to wholeness. Sometimes it gets a little bit easier. It's like doing reps, right, at the gym where I've lifted this 10-pound weight so many times, now I can move on to the 20-pound weight, right?
Mhm.
Um, but that doesn't make us weaker, that just means that we're stronger. And so I think just acknowledging that can be really transformative for those of your audience, especially who are in the trenches right now, who are feeling stuck in this place and not knowing, like, "Is this okay that I feel
Mhm.
this way?"
Yeah, I love that you said that, and I love that you said becoming,
Mhm.
because that just truly is that's our story.
Yeah.
We are constantly becoming
Mhm.
and constantly going through a process. And it would be so nice to think that once we, you know, I think about racing, but like once we cross a hurdle, that
Mhm.
that would be the last one that we ever have to cross, right?
We
And
hope. Wish.
right, and we do know that God told the Israelites, "You will never see this enemy, that particular enemy again." But there will always be something because we live
Yeah.
in a broken and fallen world, and the world is always gonna be the world. It's
Yeah.
life is always gonna be lifing. We are always gonna be experiencing something, and I truly think, for me personally, it I might have been a late bloomer, a late developer on learning coping
Mm.
skills and
Mhm.
coping mechanisms, more so than I would have, like, thought or that, that I would like to have admit.
Yep.
I just continued to suppress everything,
Mm.
right? And as long as I wore my necklace today of "I'm fine" around my neck, then everything was good, right? That was just my answer, and if I could have won a Tony for the best actress in a play
It would have been
at
you.
certain times in my life for faking happy or playing
Uh-huh.
house or just going through the motions because this is just what a good Christian girl is supposed to do and, air quotes right now, look like.
Mhm.
I just continue to suppress it, and I don't blame that. It's not I'm not saying society, it's not that, I'm not even saying the church. I know that you know, we
It was
can get in.
self-protective. It
Yeah,
was
it was
survival.
self-reflective, and we
Yeah.
can get in, pointing fingers and things like that, especially where we are in life today. But I'm just so thankful that you said becoming because I think that is one of the things that is missing in a
Mhm.
lot of our self-talk
Yeah.
is that we don't have to have ever made it we don't have to have it all together
Yeah.
to be able to embrace and enjoy life, like, right where we are.
Yep.
And, I would love to say that I have it all together, but
Hmm.
I couldn't even charge my ring light to sit on top of my computer today. Like, I thought I was going to. I told myself a couple of times, and I mean,
Yeah.
I know that's like something, like just a small trivial little thing to say, but it's just truly, um, we hold so much standard to
Yeah.
ourselves and to others. I think we hold others, to such convictions, and we're just carrying all these things around, and it's so
Mhm.
heavy,
Yeah.
um, because we don't know how to release things that
Yep.
are holding us down and may have not ever even been ours to carry.
That's
And
exactly right. Yeah.
and so, I don't know. I don't even know why I said that, but, I just feel like, I feel like in my own journey, in my own path, um, because I wanted to talk about this for a minute before we move on to something else. Because you spoke about clients that have been making progress and feel like they are making headway, and they are. I mean, they don't just feel like it, they are.
We
And
are
they're
now.
dealing with the hard things, but in dealing with those hard things, some other hard things start coming up.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, man, I thought I was like really getting there. And then like
Mhm.
this don't feel so good today.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say to that friend that feels like she's just in that cycle
Mhm.
of walking through, um, in that cycle of just walking through, is there an end in sight? I think
Yeah.
that's a good, is there an end in sight? Like, is the light at the end of this tunnel a train?
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great question. I feel like that's a really delicate place to sit in, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of nuance there because certainly, as you mentioned earlier, it's really easy to kind of like gaslight ourselves, right? Or minimize the pain that we're walking through. And so there is this place where it's like we have to acknowledge that things suck and are hard, and we can recognize that things aren't going our way, that maybe they don't look the way that we ever hoped or anticipated them to be. But there is also this place where we have to take our agency back, and we have to recognize, as you said, that we're maybe carrying things that aren't ours to carry, and that we have to reframe and change our perspective. And so, I think even just in my own life, something I've personally been working on is like this measure of like discontentment. I feel like I'm always carrying all the time. And it is like I don't even want to say it's ridiculous because that would be dishonoring to the part of me that wants things to be a certain way. And so,
Mhm.
I do recognize that part of that discontentment is the drive in me to want my life to be better, right? Like there's
Mhm.
this ambitious part, or it's coming from this place of love. Like I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better wife. I want to be a better counselor. I want this. I want that. So it's like I know that the striving in me is there because
Mhm.
it's pushing me towards something. But that discontentment is also what unravels me. It's also what sends me into a spiral. It's what often will cause my days to become a lot harder than they honestly should be. And so the perspective shift and change is okay, what does it look like to be grateful or thankful or present to what's happening right now? Because that's me taking my agency back. That's me actually saying, I have some control here, and the control looks like, what am I fixing my gaze on? Right?
Mhm.
Like, maybe there's nothing. Maybe it's just a really terrible day with some really terrible things, and there really is not a lot to be thankful for. And in that moment, what I have to remind myself of is that God's presence really is the prize. Like, God being with me really is the thing I get to hold on to and to be thankful for, and to go, "I don't know where you're taking us, Lord, but I'm holding tight onto your hem cloth, and drag me along if you must, because that's all I can bear to do right now," right? Is just
Yeah.
to be dragged in the dust. And so that's this, like, place I think as Christians we're still learning how to do effectively, which is, like, acknowledging the hard and not minimizing it, but you can get stuck there. Like, you can really get stuck there, and that's when bitterness shows up and resentment shows up, and that's where we sort of sit in this, like, victimhood,
Mhm.
and Christ came to set us free so that we can be free, not so that we can be victim, not so that we can be shackled to our bad days or our bad situations. And so standing back up and going, okay, what kind of agency do I have here? And sometimes the only agency I have, the only control I have is, what am I looking at? What
Yeah.
am I spending time thinking about? How am I literally just even being grateful for breathing this morning? That's going to help me move forward, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you spoke on contentment, because that has been one of the words that I have wrestled with
Mm,
deeply in my
yeah.
own spirit for a very long time. And like you said, there's so many facets of contentment, right?
Mm.
And so I, like one else at the end of, um, 2025 or the end of any year, and I'm like, "Okay, God, like, what is the word? Like, what are you speaking to me? What am I gonna live into this year?"
Be
I
prophetic, please, Lord.
Yes, let me just tell you. I thought he was gonna say, like, millionaire. I don't know what I thought he was gonna say, but no, what he said to
Your
me,
word this year is lottery.
yes,
You're
your word,
winning.
this you're winning. You're winning at life. Like, this year, the theme of your life is you win. Triple seven, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
all okay, no, he said contentment, and I
Mm.
kid you not. Okay, I sat here and in my room, and I said, "Was that to me?" Was somebody else praying in this same house and you just answered and, like, I caught wind of what you just said? Because I
Mhm,
know that me, the daughter that you love so deeply,
mhm.
the word that you gave me to hold on to and to live into this year, I don't think you really meant contentment. Like, are you sure? And when I tell you I wrestled with him,
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you, I don't know if Jacob's hip has anything on mine. Like, when he took this one out of socket, like, I'm gonna tell you, I was, like, walking with a limp, still am.
Mhm.
And, I I had to really pray into that because I like you said, I have fallen victim
Mhm.
many times inside my own discontentment.
Yeah.
And, um, like you've said and I've said, like, discontentment can be so many different things. It can, and I'm not just talking about like, oh, I don't like, my house and I like my friend's living room color better. I
Right.
wish that was how my discontentment was. And I'm not like downplaying that for anybody that really bothers them.
Yeah.
But no, he had to really show me like what he meant by contentment for me because, sometimes I don't know. I didn't get that award in school. Like, I got things just like on the first try. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like, my teacher said something and I was like, pick me. I have the answer for that. Like, I
Uh-huh.
had to work through it a lot.
Mhm.
And that is no different than how I lived into this word contentment that I did not want.
Yeah.
And so I'm so thankful that you said that because I don't think, especially with the age that we live in, like this digital age and this, how we
Mhm.
have, I mean, we have our cell phones, we have them in the palms of our hands. And I am not, listen, if our friends hear me saying anything, I promise I'm not speaking at you, preaching at you, honey. I am right in the middle of this conversation. I am really, this falls on me. But we hold these devices in the palms of our hands and we have, suffering in the
Yeah.
palm of our hand. We
Mhm.
hold other people's wins and losses and joy and grief in our hands. And it's a lot of things that we're consuming
Yeah.
that we were never meant to consume. And my discontentment, I have
Mm.
found my discontentment can really spiral when I'm already, right, sitting
Mhm.
in that for a minute and then start scrolling and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, I guess it really isn't that good over here, is it? Like, don't look that good for my house. You know what I mean? And so like, um, I don't think we realize how easy it is for the enemy of our souls
Mhm.
to use, and I'll just because this is the word we've been saying, it could be any word but discontentment. I don't think we realize how easy it is for him to use something against us. And to hold us to that, and before we know it, like you said, we're just stuck there. We're
Yeah.
stuck there and feel isolated and alone, like we can't rise above it, when that is the furthest thing from the truth. Like, we're never alone, and
Yep.
we are victorious, even in that, even when things don't turn out the way we thought they would, and
Yeah.
even when they don't look like the way we planned, we still are victorious and we still have a promise and we still have a hope and we still have a future. And I think that's where some of us fall in a place is because it's easy in that to lose hope.
Yeah.
Do you think like that is something that is one of the, but in talking to patients in the past, I'm not working clinically right now, but just in talking to some of my patients in the past, and getting to the bottom of some things, or just trying to, not even the bottom because you never really get to the bottom either, but just
Try.
trying to work through some things. And it was, that's what, that's kind of what it was. And it was just they had lost hope.
Yeah.
And I think with us consuming all of the things that we see in the world right now,
Mhm.
I mean, you know what? ABC, my husband and I just talked about this the other day. On TV before, like, if you think about it, TV shows like Beverly Hillbillies and,
Yeah.
Good Times or, you know, you couldn't there wasn't cuss words, and there was only scantily so much, we seen of people's bodies, and we surely didn't see someone in real time be murdered
Right.
and desensitized to that and supposed to carry that through. The next doom scroll on our phone is a recipe.
Yeah.
Like, how in the world?
Yeah, we weren't built to carry all of those things. I mean, even just with the files being released, people really looking at and seeing things that their bodies can't handle or hold, I mean, it's just too much for all of us, period.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I was also gonna say, just to I just feel like this is an interesting note. I wonder if part of the discontentment is that, and especially for looking at society, is
Mhm,
that we are increasingly becoming an identity-less people, and so when you don't have identity, it's very easy then to look at what other people have and want to fill yourself up with that thing in the hopes
mhm.
that it will anchor you or it will secure you or create some sort of identity for you, right?
Yeah.
And then for the believer, if you're actually a follower of Christ, I wonder if the discontentment is actually not just an invitation to reflect on what you are saying your identity is in or could be in, right? Like, if I'm feeling discontent around how my children operate or act or how I mother and show
Mhm.
up as a mother, if that isn't then an indication that I'm putting a little bit more of my identity in my motherhood than what is required of me.
Yeah, that was so good. That was so good, and I think you literally just spoke on something that I think so many of us
Mm,
sit in that very place,
yeah.
and, especially, like you said, in society and not knowing who our identity is in,
Mhm,
um I literally my heart aches, and my husband and I have this conversation a lot, that it seems like a lot happens right now because
mhm,
people are identity-less, right? Like, and, um, it makes us have no regard for ourself,
mhm.
for our own human worth, and makes us more numb
Yeah.
to not even consider other
Mhm.
people's worth,
Yeah.
and to know that every person that is on the face of this earth was created in the image of God. We're all image bearers, and I know that's a word that has been thrown around a lot lately, and we throw that around like everyone doesn't bear the image of Christ. But
Right.
we all were created by him,
Mhm.
whether we like to acknowledge him or not. That part doesn't matter.
Yep.
So be it. And people have the right to believe and think what they want. But every person that we encounter
Mhm.
is a real life, a real soul, a real
Yeah.
human, a real person with real heart and feelings, and they bleed, just like we do. And this is completely off topic of where I was going next, but just in line of what we're talking about, it makes me think about like the whole keyboard warriors right now and how easy it is to be hurtful to someone we don't even know, have never met
Yeah.
behind a screen or to read comments. Um, or just to see something. Like, you could share something about your life today on social media or on anything. I don't care if you're a newscaster or wherever. And just the things that we as people feel so entitled to say or to think or speak out loud about one another. And just like this snowball a
Yeah.
thing that we're creating, I think we forget that we're all human and
Yeah.
we all bleed and we all love and we all are going through some things and we all need like a hug. We all need Jesus. You know what I mean? Like some days I just need a hug. Dang it.
Yeah.
I've said
I
that twice.
suspect those
Maybe
people, though, that's the way that they talk to themselves, and so that's why it's easy for them to talk to others that way, right? Like
that's where I was going next. See,
Mhm.
you took me right there. That's what I wanted to go to because that is something that I respect deeply about your work is you don't separate emotional healing from
Mhm.
spiritual formation and you hold both together.
Yeah,
And um that is so big in our spiritual formation and how we see ourselves and
yeah.
how we view who we are and what we think our worth is or what our worth is in, how we talk to ourselves and how we regard others. What do you think happened? And I'm just speaking to the church right now because I think this is very important. What do you think happens when the church skips emotional honesty and then just starts jumping straight forward to spiritual answers and
Mm.
just disregards humanity altogether?
Well, it creates zealots instead of, people who actually have a relationship with Christ, right? I
Yeah.
mean, when there's tasks given to us and shame attached to those tasks, if we're able
Mhm.
to accomplish them, that's not creating somebody who has free will to say yes to God. That's somebody who feels like they should or have to. And as we all know, when we're forced into obligation, there's no genuine change there. There's no genuine transformation there. And so then we have what I think we really are running into in many places, and at least the American church. I can't speak for the global church because I certainly think that's different. But, what does it look like to actually live an embodied life that connects to or is driven by the gospel? And so many of us are missing in that. And there's no shame in that. I think surely there are people who intentionally are choosing that kind of life, right? Who are maybe pharisaical in nature and don't realize that they are living the Pharisee life. But I also think many of us are just in these communities and echo chambers and we don't recognize like, oh, I I'm maybe not following God, I'm following my pastor. Maybe I'm not following God, I'm just really in love with the way my church looks on social media, and I say that from a place of somebody who has been there. I certainly, and I talk about this in my book a little bit, in my 20s, my husband and I were at a church and I loved that church deeply. I just felt so proud of this place. I felt like in many ways I was inviting people to church every week, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do. And it wasn't until the end when we ended up leaving for a variety of reasons that I kind of came to the end of myself and realized, like, oh, I don't know how much of this relationship I have with God is personal and how much of it has really come from this idea or this concept of this church building and these people that I'm part of. And it just happened so, I don't know, naturally it was hidden to me. It wasn't until I was faced with reality that I had to really kind of deconstruct this whole thought of like, this is who God is to me and this is who God actually can be. And I would never change that for the world. Like, because my relationship with Christ is so much better and more richer and more personal than it has ever been. But it's easy to get there. It's easy to be in this place of like, a disembodied Christian. Well, I went to church on Sunday. Check. I went to a small group this week. Check. But I'm never actually really showing up. I'm not really saying what I mean. I'm not asking hard questions. I'm not pushing back when I don't agree. I'm not willing to be transparent with these people. And that really doesn't help us in the long run. And
Mhm.
I think fear really drives that, right? Because what will happen if I'm transparent? What if I ask this question that I'm supposed to know? What if I share this mental thing, the emotional thing I'm going through, and people judge me and shame me? And those are real fears because we know that there are churches who operate in that place, right? There are Christians who operate from judgment and from shame. And unfortunately, it corners people and it puts people in a place where they feel like they can't show up. And I do believe that can be to the detriment of their relationship with Jesus. And ultimately, they have to own that, right? That's
Yeah.
on them. Like, we can point our fingers and we can say all of this stuff happened, and certainly people are harmed, and I have been harmed and hurt by other people. But at the end of the day, I have to own my relationship with God. That's something that I get to take some control over, right? And say, no, I don't want to be disembodied. I don't want to be inauthentic. I really want a real relationship with Him. And I'm going to do everything it takes to make that happen, even if that means maybe walking away from a community that I've been a part of for a very long time.
Yeah. That that I just I mean, you could have just been speaking right to my soul right then.
Mhm.
That was so good. Every single word you just said, and I I think about, first of all, like you said, we don't diminish, or, God definitely does not diminish our pain or push us through it or push us past it, faster than what we need. Um, and I think it is so, I don't want to say easy, but that's just the word that I'm reaching for right now. But it is easy to to feel like you're checking all the boxes, right? And then once
Yeah.
you start checking all the boxes, before you realize it, you're going through all the motions. And
Mhm.
you don't. There's times that we don't even realize that we are living this disembodied faith until,
Yeah.
like you said, reality hits you, and you're like, "Wait a minute." I hear all these good things about God, but is that really the God I serve? Like, really? Is Jesus really that kind? Like,
Yeah.
does he hold space for my longing and my ache or just my worship?
Yeah.
Is it okay that I say I have faith in him and I trust him and I believe him, but I'm just dealing with this thing and I have this question and I'm hurting and nobody else around me is hurting and I don't know who to take it to, like it is so easy and we don't do that on purpose to other people especially, but I think in the church we do a good job of loving people in the door. Like you said, you invited all these people, but then I think we also do sometimes an even better job of hurting them right
Mhm.
back out the door. But it's in our humanity. And like you said, some people, I mean, that's their intent and they mean to, but some people, it's
Mhm.
like learned behavior.
Yeah,
It's what we've
absolutely.
learned. And we're following these rules of man and
Mhm.
not, the law of love and of Jesus and his covenant and living in his promise are wildly free, are radically expectant for hope. I don't know, but it was everything you said was so good. Now this may be one of those episodes that I have to go back and listen to because I may have just needed that way more than what you even think.
Mhm.
I think it helped, especially me, more
Mhm.
than we both realized in the moment when you were speaking. And that makes me, I had written this question. And I didn't know if I was going to ask it, but I want to now.
Yeah.
Because you are a trauma informed counselor, um, what does safe faith look like? And not safe as in like, I don't mean like safe like shallow. I mean safe as in grounded, safe as in rooted. Like, what does that safe look
Mm.
like?
Safe faith. I think it's the difference between acting like somebody's savior versus being in community with them. I think we become unsafe when we operate from a place of authority that was never ours to carry,
Mhm.
right? The difference between holding someone's hand and walking with them versus standing on a platform shouting down, "This is how you're supposed to do this. Keep
Yeah,
going. Oh, you
right.
fell. Okay. Get back up." It's the difference between being with people and, just kind of shouting at them from
Yeah.
a right?
Knowing how to shepherd them, right? And
Yes.
love them. Yeah.
Yeah, and even being careful with that idea of shepherding, right? Like, because who is the true
The
shepherd,
true
right?
shepherd, right?
Yes. And I
Mhm.
just think, a lot of times what happens is well-intentioned people put themselves in a place where they get all the say for another person, or they
Ooh.
are meant to be their Holy Spirit. And
Mhm.
anytime we find ourselves in a role that only God is supposed to operate out of, that is when we are really playing with fire, and when things very quickly become unsafe for other
Yeah.
people to express themselves, and we don't even realize we're doing it. We have to really catch ourselves regularly and be very self-reflective and say, "What's my motivation here?" Right? Like, even as a therapist, I have to constantly go into my office and remind myself, "It is not my job to save this person."
Mm.
It's not. It's not my
Yeah.
job to save them. I'm here to counsel, to guide, to be with, to build relationship with. But at the end of the day, like, Jesus saves them. And this does not mean that we get to negate responsibility as a community or as the church, as the body of Christ, to go and help people, whether that's financially or delivering meals or showing up at their door, praying for them. Like, we are supposed to be the hands and the feet. But there is this place where we can very easily go, but I have to save them. I have
Yeah.
to make them right. I have to fix their brokenness. And that's where we have to go, no, actually, my job is to point them to Jesus, to meet them in that, and then also to come alongside them as a human to bear witness to their humanity and go, man, I've been there. Man, me too. Man, let's do this together. That's
Mhm.
very different than saying, I'm gonna make all of your hurt go away.
Yeah. As you were talking, I thought about different points, even in my own life, where, I mean, there are very many accounts that I can pull out where I was hurt by the church, right?
Mm,
But there are also accounts where if I'm being honest and holding myself accountable, that I
mhm.
have been on the other side of that as well. And
Me too.
I will never forget. I was walking down my driveway when we lived in Tennessee. We lived on 25 acres, and our driveway was like a fourth of, or no, it was a third. Of a mile long. And I
Wow.
was like halfway down the driveway and I was praying. I was talking about my children. They were going through some things. I was going through some, we were just, life was lifing very heavily.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to God in that moment. And I felt like I wasn't just trying to catch fish, I was trying to clean them. I was
Mhm.
trying to save my children. And it was a very honest moment for me, and God may not talk to y'all like He talks to me because I need it sometimes. I mean, I'm just, and not that He's not gentle and a gentleman, because He is, but it was like He said to me, "I don't need
Mhm.
you to do my job.
Yeah.
I'm not hiring for my job. This is not an audition.
Yeah.
You're not me. You're not the Holy Spirit." Like, I mean, that's just literally what I felt, and it was, I loved my children. We all love we love people in our lives, but He loved them first and He loved them before us. And as much as I would like to think that I know is what's best for
Mhm.
them, He does. He
Yeah.
knows. And if we will just allow Him to do His job and to step out of the way, well, what do you know? He can do the saving, right?
Yeah.
He can do the changing. He
Mm.
does have the power to change a life. We don't. There is nothing. I mean, sometimes I'm like, "Ooh, girl, yeah, say that again." Like, you say something, I'm like, "Ooh, yeah." I'm gonna pull that out as a pull quote. Or I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna live on that one. I'm gonna say," but none of the words that I have
Mm.
are good enough to change you.
Yep, that's right.
Nothing I have in my arsenal, in this toolbox of all the words that I've learned that are so cool, they can't change you. I don't have that power, only He does. And I think that, as we kind of talked about a full circle moment of seeing our own lives and walking in transformation, and knowing that we are checking off boxes and we're going through the motions and we're wondering why things aren't changing, you know? So I've been on that side of the lens, and then I've been on the other side to where I'm like, "Can you not just get it? Like, if you would just do this, you know?" And um, not that I would ever do that,
Oh, we've
but
all done that. We've all thought.
right? Yeah. And so I think the conversation is so needed because somewhere in the time that we live, accountability for
Mhm.
our own words and our own actions has been lost in translation a little.
Mhm.
Um, and I've been guilty of that myself. And that's I wanted to talk about that too, because in that our own words, and we know, scripture tells us that, we have death and life. It's in the power of our tongue, and our words, obviously they matter. And he tells us to even speak to ourselves, right?
Yep.
Let our words be sweet, but um to the tongue, and it's like honey to the soul. And then I'm thinking, how many times our words, we can easily point out how others' words have hurt us and caused us to walk in shame or to
Yeah.
have doubt, or but what about holding space for doubt without shame? How is
Mm.
that shaped, like, how we see Jesus? You know what I mean? Like, those are 2 flip sides of the coin, and that just really made me think. That just made me go right deep like, and I just don't know if I don't know if I was ready for that today. I just don't know if I think I just said all that to say for anybody listening to us, I just don't know if I was ready for that today. I might just skip right on past that one because I'm sweating and my
Dive
Sherpa.
too deep.
Yeah, I got too deep for a second. I'm gonna like pull it back out for a minute.
Mm.
Okay, I think though, in I I was literally going into rejection and identity from
Yeah.
all of the things that we have talked about. Um, it's so easy. It's easy, and I keep saying so easy. Nothing is so easy, but we find ourselves in those moments, and I think so many. Maybe I think some of our friends, some women listening, um, have felt seen in what you have said and what I have said, and it brings me to something that you speak about. Um, Rejection not as an ending, but as an invitation into deeper identity.
Mhm.
And because rejection is the thread that runs like through nearly every conversation when it can go there, right? If we've been hurt,
Yep.
it's rejection, it's abandonment, it's things, what speak to us about that for just or speak into me like for
Mhm.
just a minute. Maybe you know what? Maybe everybody else can just tune this conversation out. This I probably could have just paid you my copay and told you to take all my money and help me today. But you speak on that as an invitation into deeper identity, and I would like to just touch on that before we move past this right now.
Yeah, the way I like to think of it is that rejection is a path that Christ himself has already walked. And when we look at his story and the way that he lived his life, clearly rejection was a big part of it. He experienced it regularly from people who didn't believe in who he was, who didn't want to believe who he was, who turned their noses at him. But then in the penultimate moment, right, the finale of his life, it's rejection that he had to bear from his own father in order to do the work that God sent him to do. That we know that God essentially turned himself away from Christ as he died on the cross. And so, as someone whose story is riddled with rejection, there's this solace in knowing that Christ experienced it first,
Yeah.
uh, and that it was rejection in which he was buried in, and then he was brought back to life in fullness. And to me, that then invites me to say, oh, rejection then doesn't get to be the end of me. Rejection doesn't get to define me. Rejection isn't the whole story. Actually, I can see that part of my life be buried and then what gets to rise out of that, what gets
Yeah.
to come from that. And it's not always closed loops, right? It's not always reconciliation. It's not always finding belonging with the people that we wanted to belong to,
Mhm.
but it is finding belonging in Christ. And so that's the deeper invitation is more than just security and knowing and solace and knowing that Christ walked this path. It's also knowing that Christ is inviting us to belong to him, to be held by him. And, you mentioned this a while ago, but, there's this idea that like we should heal in community. And the way I've experienced things, that's been pretty hard and difficult to do actually, because there hasn't been any community to heal in. Um, and, it's interesting that people say that. It feels like I know they don't mean it this way, but it feels like such a privilege to say that. I have clients who come in and they just don't have anybody, but they're
Yeah.
still trying to find healing. And I can't imagine myself saying to that person, "Well, you're gonna heal once you find people."
Once you find your people, it's just gonna come right to you.
Matter, like and so Christ offers us so much more to hold on to when people aren't and can't be or won't be a part of our lives, when the loneliness is just this, like, heavy cloud, knowing that, like, "Oh, I belong to Jesus." Like, I belong to him, and I'm not alone. And there's something that's coming from this place of rejection, even just between him and I, that is rebuilding my life and setting a
Mhm.
foundation for whenever the day comes that I get to walk into community again, when I do find people again, when they find me again. But there's going to be something so much healthier about that because it won't be that those people healed me, it will be that Christ healed me and that
Right.
he's setting me free to be in that community as myself, already whole, already belonging, right? I think it's beautiful when people can be the conduit of Christ, but I'm really speaking directly to the people who don't have that opportunity, that you don't have to wait for people to accept you or affirm you to feel healed, that Christ really is inviting you to himself so that you can find healing today.
Yeah. We already have a seat at his table, right? Even if we
Yeah.
haven't found ourselves at a seat to anyone else's
Yep.
table. I would like to not admit that I played dodgeball and I never got picked on anybody's team. I probably carry scars like trauma from that from real, like never got like, when there was captains on both sides and it was like they were picking teams. I was never picked to be on anybody's dodgeball team. Um, I wasn't. But
Well,
I think no, I think about what you said, and I've spoke on this a couple of times since we've been chatting, but like since we've moved here,
yeah.
telling me that I would heal in community when
Mhm.
I was desperately seeking, right, for community. And what community I did see wasn't mine, right? Like I seen other women enjoying each other and having girls' day and going shopping or having coffee, and I wasn't invited. It's not because, they didn't like me, they didn't know me.
Yeah.
I hadn't found myself in community.
Mhm.
And how I could have watched that story like a TV show and cried, right? Like a Hallmark commercial the whole time. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I fit in community? And had I waited until I actually even talked with a friend or made a friend or even felt the courage or confidence to talk to somebody because I've been hurt by women, been
Yeah.
hurt by women in the church. I've been hurt
Mm.
by and I think a lot of us, could say that that's the case. And had I waited until I found that to know that I don't have to fight for my worth. I don't have to prove this is a place that I don't have to perform. I'm
Mhm.
loved because I'm daughter.
Yeah.
I have identity in him because I belong. My son just got home and my dogs are the welcoming committee. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
it's okay.
But yeah, I do think that that rejection is something that probably every single woman that
Mhm.
has been listening to us can say that she has walked through in her life, and we don't have to treat that like a weakness. It's not a weakness. It's not something that we could help that it happened or, but the difference in feeling rejected and believing we're rejected is completely a different
Yes.
situation,
Yeah.
and, rejection, like, the wounds reshape us, and
Mhm.
sometimes that happens in a good way, and sometimes it reshapes us in God, and there's probably a woman right now who feels spiritually exhausted, but she loves Jesus.
Yeah.
And, how would you before because 'cause we're I know, to steward your time well, we will end our little chat in just a moment, but, um, how would you, um how would you say to her if she's learned to hide emotionally to
Yeah.
stay safe? What does it look like to let Jesus hold those parts that maybe she has never shown to anyone?
Yeah. That's a great question. That is the first step too, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's this story in the Bible that some of us are familiar with, maybe others not so much, but it's when Jesus visits the healing pools and he makes his way through the healing pools. He's only there for, I don't know, it feels like maybe a few minutes or so. He has one person he wants to talk to and one person only. And he goes straight up to this man who's been in the healing pools for the bulk of his life, right? And he's
Mhm.
been laying there, unable to move, paralyzed, um, broken. And the story behind these healing pools is that they believed an angel would come and like circulate the pools with the angel's wings, and that somehow gave miraculous power to this water. And so people thought if they could be the first person to the water, that that would heal them, right?
Yeah.
And so Jesus comes up to this man, and the very first question he asks him is, you know, "Do you wanna be healed? Do you wanna be healed?"
Yeah.
And feel like every time I read that story, I don't know why, but it just has a sharpness and an edge to it, you know?
Mhm.
Um, 'Cause it really just gets straight to the heart of
Yeah.
our actual motivations, our actual desires, and I guess not to be so sharp with the women who are listening today, but I think that's the question that a woman has to ask herself is,
Mhm.
do you wanna be healed?
Mhm.
And if so, simply acknowledging that pain to Jesus, that in and of itself will transform your life. That you may not feel like you can tell anyone else, but being able to lament and grieve and say, "Yes, Lord, this is what I want. Yes, this is what's wrong with me," is going to help you access healing, right? It's the same as if we're breaking an arm or breaking a leg. If we have a scrap, right? Like if we just pretend or ignore that wound, it will
Mhm.
only fester. It'll only get worse. It'll only get infected. We have to say that something's wrong. We have to say that there's pain in order for us to do something about the pain. And so it's less about here's what this woman should do. Here's a way to do it. It's more of a can you reflect deeply upon your own motivations here and say, "Yes, Lord, I do want to be healed." Because if you can answer yes to that, then the natural next step is to say, "Okay, Lord, here is all of this stuff that I've been holding back."
Yeah. I can say that there was a time in my life when I thought I was saying
Mm.
yes, but the posture of my heart wasn't really turned toward
Mhm.
even thinking that I was safe enough in him to say yes. And so I love that you said that and about the pools and about the healing and truly like not to be sharp, but to know it's not just it's not that we can just say, right? Yes, I am ready because I say, yes, I'm ready to do a lot of things that I'm not really ready to do.
Yep.
And then I cancel plans and that just happens like that.
Yeah.
But um,
The
I
cool part
think,
of that story, though, a caveat real quick, is that this man is not a believer. He doesn't even know that
That's where
it's
I was going.
Jesus that
Yes.
he's talking about, right? Like,
Right.
the hope in that, right? Like, we can be as far away from Jesus and still say, "Lord, I wanna be healed by you," and Jesus will heal you. Like, he will help you enter into healing. That to me is incredible
Yeah.
and miraculous.
Yeah, that is I'm so glad that you said that because that's what I was gonna say,
Mhm.
like, when he isn't it so cool, like, really, I mean, sound cheesy for a minute, but, like, what a friend we have in Jesus, right? Like, that
Yeah.
he will come in and, um, and do the healing, like,
Mm,
we don't have to it's yes, there's work that we have to do, so that wasn't gonna sound right when I said we don't have to do the work, but us doing the work is
yeah,
by being willing, right?
yeah,
Like, that's our work, and then he invites us in that space, and he's like, "Let me show you what I can do," you know? And I just love that because, hey, even as a believer, I can't tell you how many times, Tabitha, that I've been like, "I do believe."
yeah,
But help me with my unbelief.
yep.
I've been that girl. I was just that girl last week, you know, I can
Mhm.
be the one today that I'm literally standing there like Elijah and I'm like in front of 450 prophets of Baal and I'm like, yeah, you know, like what? Like I know who my God is, but then I can also in the same day be that girl that's like, wait a minute, I'm doing this, but I'm also afraid. Like, I'm the biggest thing I can do today is just have courage to say yes. And
Yep.
can you just, like you said, can you just pull me? Like, if I attach myself to the hem of your garment, will you just pull me on, you know, on along? Because today, girl can't, your girl just can't do it. Like,
I can
but
hear you, but I can't walk right now.
yeah, I really want to go right now. But remember when I was wrestling with you about that word contentment and you took my hip out of socket? Like, it's still hurting a little bit. Like, I can't, I'm trying to limp over there. But before we close, I just want to make space for one more moment of encouragement for the woman who is listening, who just needed this conversation today,
Mhm.
who just needed that I pray that there was maybe just one word that if she was struggling or having a day like me where she thought she had it all together and it all just ungently, that's my word, ungently unfolded before her. And she realized like she didn't have her eggs in one basket and her ducks like were in not one row. Like they just
Yep.
weren't. But if someone listening feels unseen by people,
Mm.
and distant from God. So not just unseen by people, but they even feel like she may feel like she's distant from God. Um, what do you think that we could say to help? We can't fix, we can't heal. We're not trying to rush anyone past where they are, but just to hear today, if we could say one thing that they could hear about Jesus to know that they are at least in a safe place because he is with them. Um, and what do we hope that they would experience emotionally, um, when they close the last page of your book,
Mm,
loyal, in his love? Because,
mm,
like I said, if they feel, like they are being rejected by people, they've been let go,
yeah.
how what would you what could you say to one of our friends to just hope to point them in the right direction?
Yeah, I would say it's more than okay. You have permission to be human. You have permission to be in process, to be becoming the fullest potential of who God wants you to be. There are no expectations on you to be done, be complete right now in this
Yeah,
moment. And it's okay. We know it's okay because God created you.
yeah,
Like, we don't have to resist the thing that He created in us, which is our humanity.
yeah,
It's a God
yeah.
given gift.
Yeah. Amen. Okay, so we've been really deep. We've laughed, we've been deep, we've gone all over the place. And before we ever close out our show, we always because for some reason I wish I was always just the fun friend,
Mm,
but like when I meet you, our very first conversation, I can't just like stay in a shallow conversation. I have to take everything deep. I don't know
So
why God made me that way. I wanted to have one of those podcasts, like one of those shows where everything was fun and it was just
Mhm.
enlightening and everybody laughed the whole time. And God was just like, "Oh, that's funny." Like that
We
it's
did
not even
laugh a
who you
lot, though.
right.
We
We
did.
did laugh, right? And he's like, "But that's not who you are. I have to take you through the deep things, right?" But I always like to end just like on a little lightning round. So I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
5 questions
Okay.
that are really quick. They're just like no thinking, just answer, and then we go.
'Kay.
Whatever comes first. Okay. What is a small rhythm that you are doing right now in your daily beauty routine that just makes you feel good about yourself?
Mm. I take bubble baths every single night, except
Woohoo!
that I have to fight my husband for the bathtub, so
Ah! Oh, I love that. Girl, I'm all about a bubble bath. And what is one thing that you always carry in your purse that you will never be caught without?
Oh, my purse doesn't have a lot of, like, crazy stuff in it. I would say a pen, one of my favorite pens. I don't like to use anyone else's pen.
Yeah, and you better not steal mine either. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the whole
I
medical
won't let people
professional thing.
even borrow my
No.
pen.
Honey, especially when that writes, if it's got that good glide,
Yeah.
forget about it. You ain't holding
Yes.
this one. Okay, what is your favorite? We may have already said it, but what is your favorite TV show right now?
Oh, it would be The Pit, actually.
Oh,
You would love, I feel like.
yeah, I haven't seen that.
Background. It's amazing. It's about every episode is like 1 hour in a 24-hour period in the emergency room.
Oh.
It's supposed to be like the most realistic depiction of the ER since, I don't know,
I
forever.
think my daughter, the pit, I would have to ask her, but I think that is the one that my other daughter, not the one that I watched, Love is
Love is
Blind
Blind.
with, but my
Yep.
other daughter, I think the pit is the one that she was like, "Mom, you've gotta watch this." I think
I think
somehow
you would
that's
like it. I think
that's
you'd like it.
2. That's
Yep.
2 shows, and those are, like, ones I think that'll keep me, like, emotionally engaged where I
Yes.
won't fall asleep because, I mean, I'm crying when the orange
I
screen
love
lifts
that I'm
up.
convincing you to watch TV and not read books right now. That feels so shameful.
Girl, no, but you know why it's good is because I'm in the process of writing a book, and like I know, that is
Mm,
the worst time,
to
especially
read
if
a
you don't
book.
wanna feel like an imposter, right?
Yes.
Which, I mean, let me I don't wanna end on that note, just so somebody hears me, you can never be an imposter in your own story, but just
Mhm.
so that I don't feel like I
Yeah.
am doing anything, or taking somebody else's words or then having to be like, "Okay,
It's real.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I don't wanna be, like, plagiarizing anything, like, I need this to be mine.
Yep.
Okay, are you a coffee or tea girl?
I love both, but I drink primarily coffee.
And you said decaf, is that right?
I do, I drink decaf coffee. Mm.
What would be your decaf coffee order? Just your go-to that this is just comfort in a cup.
So, I usually get a decaf Americano with cream, and lately it's been 2 pumps white mocha, 1 pump brown sugar.
You sound just like my daughter. That's literally like the one that I was just talking about.
Which
That
one?
was literally like that's her go-to coffee order. And, speaking of that, like when I go to a coffee shop with my husband, especially like if we're in the drive-through, he will not order for me. Like I have to lean over him and do the coffee order.
That's
Because
always best.
if there is any kind of veering away from the menu item. My
Yeah.
husband is the one in the drive-through, like, "I'll just pull out that you just won't get anything." Like, I can't handle this. He gets drive-through anxiety like nobody's business. I'm
Real, it's
telling
a
you.
lot of
Oh,
pressure.
it is real. Okay, last thing. How
Okay.
can our friends, if they wanna keep up with Tabitha, how
Mm,
can they find you? And can you just tell them one little piece about your book? Because we've kind of alluded to it. I said
yeah,
we were gonna talk about it. We ran out of time. So just before we let them go, just so they know
a little
who
bit of
you
it.
are. Yes.
Well, they can find me on Instagram at Tabitha Panariso. I'm mostly just posting on stories right now. I'm still figuring out my social media life. We're in talks with the Lord about what that's supposed to look like. And then Loyal in His Love. The one thing I want to tell you about this book is that I really believe in going first when you tell your story. And so you're going to get a lot of authenticity, a lot of what I walked through and experienced. It's also an integration of things I do as a therapist, but then there's a lot of integration of faith too. Um, And what I really wanted from this book was that it didn't feel like I was trying to wrap everything up with a bow, that there wasn't like this feeling like you needed to have completed something when you were done with it. It's really just to accompany you and be with you in the process of dealing with and walking through rejection.
Yeah. Wow. That is so good. I'm so thankful you were with us. I'm so
Thank
thankful that we had this
you.
conversation today. We'll have to have a part 2 because I just feel like there is so
We
much.
could keep going.
There was so much that we could have talked about, and I think we could have been entertaining too in our deepness. I think we did a really good job with that. So,
It was a
I'm
good
just
in and out.
thankful.
I loved it.
Yeah. But thank you so much. And then for our
Brandy,
friends that have been listening today, we love you dearly. And until next time, bye.
bye.
Oh my goodness. I am so thankful, Tabitha, for you bringing so much honesty and compassion into this space today. This conversation felt like a deep breath, and I know so many of our friends needed exactly these words. And if something in today's episode resonated with you, you don't have to just move on from it. You can stay with it. And also, would you do me a huge favor? Would you share this episode with a friend who might be quietly carrying something similar? And make sure you connect with Tabitha and grab her book, Loyal in His Love, where she walks deeper into healing from rejection and rediscovering the steadiness of Christ's love. Oh, and before you go, I just want to leave you with this. Healing doesn't always look loud or dramatic. Sometimes it looks like breathing a little deeper, loosening your grip on perfection, and letting yourself be held by a grace that was never asking you to perform in the first place. And if today stirred something tender in you, pay attention to that. Pay attention to what you felt. The places where you felt softened, the moments where something in you said, wait, that's me. Girl, me too. That awareness is not weakness, it's wisdom, and it's the beginning of healing. You're allowed to move slowly, you're allowed to be honest, and you are still deeply loved right here in every part of your story. You don't have to heal all at once. You just have to stay. I'll meet you back here next time. And if you really want to love on the show, would you leave us a review? Show us some love with those stars. Those stars and those reviews mean more than you will ever know. It helps push this message out where more friends can hear conversations just like this one for hope and healing so that they too might be able to be wildly hopeful and radically expectant.